Hello, welcome back. My name is Daniel Gomali. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about a tournament I played in Sitges. So, um, to get there, I was actually already in Spain. So I flew out from Leeds Bradford to get to Bali Benidorm. So I played at Bali Benidorm hotel tournament, and that was a nice experience. Actually, Bali Benidorm is like the highest hotel or one of the highest hotels in the whole Mediterranean region. So if you ever go to Benidorm, that's actually on the part of the Benidorm which is not, I would say, the usual kind of British tourist strip. It's on the other side of Benidorm, so it's more like going towards the old town. It's a nice part of Benidorm. It's quite a bit quieter, although this is also off season as well. So obviously you're playing there in December, like late November, early December. So then, obviously, after that tournament, I had a choice. I could either go back to England. I thought, well, if I go back to England, I've not really got much to go back for. It's sad to say it, but go back for a few days. I'm just going to be bumming around at home. There's no point in me going back, right? So I decided to get a coach from Benidorm. So because I'm kind of lazy, rather than getting, I don't think there's actually a train station in Benidorm. I could be wrong about that. I decided to go to the coach station in Benidorm after the tournament in Bali Benidorm had completed, and then I got the coach from Benidorm to Barcelona, which cost me around about €52, I believe. I bought a ticket on the day because I quite like coach journeys. I quite like just being stuck on a coach for like several hours doing nothing, and you get to see more of the countries. So the other options either fly, which was obviously possible, but I don't know how much that would have cost. But the most likely other option was to get the train, but that would have meant going to Alicante, then getting a connecting train to Valencia, and then another train to Barcelona. But it probably would have been a lot quicker. I reckon it would have taken about 6 or 7 hours. The way I did it took about 9 hours. And partly it was because of the wind. It was actually very windy that day, which kind of made me quite anxious because the coach was sort of like going around on the motorway. So I think Spain is quite a windy country, right? Anyway, so eventually got there. Then got off the coach station. I'm like, I don't know where I am. I don't even know where the metro station is. Can I get another coach to Sitges? Because Sitges is a coastal town, about 30 minutes or about 40 minutes on the train from Barcelona. So eventually got to the main station in Barcelona, which is called Barcelona Sants. And then from there, I got a train to, not to Sitges actually, I got a train to, I'm trying to remember the name of it now, this is quite poor, I'll remember it in a minute. But it's where my friend lived, which is Lawrence Webb, it's like a teammate of mine. Guy I've known for many years, guy I've known since the mid 1990s. And I stayed at his house with his family, and it was very nice. Yeah, the son there. The son was like amazing at science questions. Maybe looked like an idiot. His wife was there as well. He's a very kind host. But after a few days, my plan was to move in for this other accommodation where I was going to sleep on the sofa. However, that didn't work out. And to be honest, in a way, I was relieved that it didn't work out because you don't really want to be you're playing a serious chess tournament. You don't want to be on the sofa for 10 days, in a row. And it was actually 11 days because you've also got the rest day as well. So I ended up booking a hotel. The hotel did cost a lot of money and eventually cost me over €600. And because you're eating out every day, I was kind of getting sick of the food after a while. By the end of Sitges, I was getting a bit sick of the food because you're eating patatas bravas every day and it's just like very repetitive. But it's very nice places, it's a very nice place, very nice places to eat, just a very nice place in general. You get beautiful sunsets. Um, you get like a very hospitable sort of place. You don't get a sense that tourism isn't welcome there. We're kind of there as tourists, right? We're chess tourists. But I didn't get any conditions because there's a 2400 GM. What you do get, as you do get some sort of conditions, you get The organisers offers you reduced accommodation, so you pay. I think you get something like 30% off the accommodation, which is quite a reasonable deal if you book the official accommodation. But I ended up just booking the different hotel, and anyway, in round 6, I played against Ivanchuk. So this is day after rest day. So not only did I have the main tournament going on, I've also got so they got an A tournament which has the top 2 seeds were Kirill Alezenko, originally from Russia, and Vasily Ivanchuk, obviously Ukrainian, but living, I believe, possibly living in Spain. Not sure exactly where he lives, but he seems to play in a lot of these Spanish tournaments because I played Alicante earlier last year. That was in something like April, and he was in that as well. And a friend of mine actually played him twice. Keith Arkle played him in Alicante, lost to him, but he managed to draw with him in this same tournament. So he plays a lot in Spain, Ivanchuk. He did a masterclass on the rest day. And I kind of regretted not going along to the masterclass because I could have learnt a lot. And he also was flying direct from Qatar. He was playing the Qatar Masters. And he hardly had, so that's why he missed the first round. So he missed the first round, and then he just started winning every game, as you would expect. So he played me in round 6. I think by this point he's on something like 4 out of 5. I think we're both on 4 out of 5. And now Ivanchuk is variously described as like a genius, but I don't really like that term. To me, it's meaningless. I don't really subscribe to the whole genius theory. I believe that mostly people are successful because they work hard. He's clearly got a phenomenal amount of natural ability. Don't get me wrong. If you look up genius in a dictionary, it says that, somebody who's exceptional at what they do, exceptional. So I could count as a genius in that respect. If you just use a pure, because a lot of people would probably say I'm exceptional at chess, but certainly not as exceptional as Ivanchuk. He's obviously got a lot of accolades. He has competed for world championships in the past. He got to the final of the FIDE World Championship, lost out narrowly to Ponomaryov, his compatriot, who was 18 at the time. So he was a phenomenal player, still is. Yeah, he dates back to 1990, even the 1980s. Ivanchuk, he's had a very long career, and I first remember watching Ivanchuk in the mid-1990s. He was playing against Kramnik, and they were playing at unbelievable speed. This is in the PCL Intel Grand Prix, which was in London. I remember them playing a blitz playoff, which Ivanchuk won, and they were playing at unbelievable speed, and it was just like an unbelievable level. And then in the final, he played Anand, and he managed to win that match despite missing a mate in 1. And I think I mentioned that on my channel, that when he missed the mate in 1, because the commentators Maurice Ashley and Danny King was going so nuts, I laughed in the audience, darkened audience, probably 300 people in the room, but I still think Ivanchuk, I still had this feeling Ivanchuk, and he spotted me laughing and shot me like an angry glare, so it's just maybe his revenge. Let's look at this game and try and explain the thought process behind some of these moves. So let's look at the game. Let's hide the moves actually. Get rid of the engine. Engine's boring, right? Who cares what the engine thinks? Should we look at it from Ivanchuk's perspective? Actually, I'm going to look at it from my perspective, just to tell you what my thought process was. So basically, I can't prepare properly for games because I don't have a laptop. So it's been a bit of a problem, and I did do a little bit of prep for this game on the morning. I didn't do any prep on the rest day, even though I knew who I was playing, which I probably should have done some prep on the rest day. But I was like, I can't be bothered to do any prep on the rest day. I'm tired. I just want to save some energy. I'm going to stick with my usual routine, which is probably not a bad idea. However, so I decided not to play the normal night off, which orders Sozin Sicilian. Which is, or say, 4 nights Sicilian, where you go Richter Rouser, you go knight f6. So I decided to play Accelerate Dragon because I thought, you wouldn't be expecting that. I didn't really prepare very well for the game. But I'd got the move order wrong already. So you're supposed to go g6, I think. And when they go here, now you go here. And I think now you can get away with knight f6, right? Actually, what is the... Yeah, the theory says knight f6. Now if they take here, so what's the difference? So Ivanchuk himself has had this. Am I getting the theory wrong here? No, I think this is actually correct, right? So knight f6 actually, what I played is no. So actually, yeah. So I did this now. My opponent played bishop c4. So now it's slightly awkward because I possibly should go d6, but then he could potentially take here and then go e5. Was one option. Because you obviously can't take here because of this bishop f7 tactic. And queen d8. So already it's slightly awkward. So I'm not even getting the correct moves right, because of my lack of experience in opening. I don't even know the right move order to reach this accelerated dragon. And I think I was very nervous. I think I was going into the game. I was like, I'm not going to be nervous. I haven't played Ivanchuk before. I'm not going to get psyched out like I do against some of these British players. But I felt psyched out of the board. Let me just get a bit of water. I felt like nervous, But, so he went for this now, and now he decided, right, yeah, so what I possibly should have done, I did see this line, but I kind of misjudged it a little bit. I think that it's actually playable for black. It's a little bit like the game is probably a little bit depressing, but it's if you're getting a bishop player, that's some kind of compensation. So if you get a worse position, but you got some kind of strategic, maybe imbalance, it's better to have a worse position but have a strategic imbalance, I would say, than have, like in the game, I had a worse position but nothing to show for it. So this was a very instructive moment for me because I think here Ivanchuk plays like a really impressive move. So he fought for quite a while. So there's a couple of things that I picked up from this game. One of them was that Ivanchuk was not afraid to go into the tank. So there were one or two moments during the game where he really started thinking, like really, later on especially, he was going into the tank and using up a lot of his time. And I think the way he was doing it was basically to sort of look really deeply into position and just have everything ready. And it worked out. But it's a risky strategy because obviously if I'd sort of sense if the position had been a bit more complex, it wouldn't have been easy to trick him because obviously he's very good in time trouble. But it was more of a borderline strategy, and I think obviously that kind of maybe backfired for him in later rounds. I think also the fatigue of going all the way from Qatar. He's in his mid-50s now, going all the way from Qatar, playing, maybe somebody should say to the organiser, should say, look, don't do the masterclass because it's just too much, right? You need that rest day. But he loves chess so much that he's doing the masterclass as well. And then shortly after that tournament, he's then going out to the World Rapid and Blitz. And of course, then we saw that meltdown. Was that meltdown maybe related to overdoing it a little bit? So in this position, obviously I'd kind of maybe ascertained a little bit that this was probably not working out for white, or at least the bishop is looking a little bit suspicious. But his next move really impressed me. So he fought for quite some time, and obviously white has a lot of options. I was expecting something like bishop f4. But he very calmly just played a4, and I thought that's a really good move. That's the sort of move that an Indian would play. They just say, look, your position's rubbish. You got nothing, which I don't have. I don't have any concrete threats as black. So I've got the time to play that move. And I think that's a move that a lot of players, even strong players, like sort of 2450 IMs, 2450 GMs would probably struggle to get to. To just have the calmness of mind just to go a4. I don't think I would have gone a4 there. I would have played like a more of a... It's not to say that move isn't strong as well, but to have the calmness of mind just to go a4, just to prevent this idea of going b5, really impressed me. And I thought that's a really high-class move. And these guys are thinking really prophylactically. They're thinking like in a very high level way. I don't really understand the thought process, but it's all like Russian training. It's all like prophylaxis, and you know, I don't think on the same level as Ivanchuk. Knight G4 I played, which was okay actually, and he went here. This is where I went F5. That was a really bad move, and it's what you would call pseudo-active. It doesn't really create any kind of threat. And as soon as I played it, I started to realise that. It's like, what am I doing? Like, F5 doesn't really even do anything. All it does is weaken my position. But again, I think it was kind of overawed. Now, okay, so bear in mind that I'm playing this game at quite a poor level for myself. But at the same time, I would say that he also made me look bad. So I don't want to take anything away from him, because yes, I played badly, but I'd probably get away with it against, or to some extent against maybe like someone of a similar rating to me. Like I might scramble a draw, or you know, something good might happen in the game. I might start to go a little bit wrong. But he really punished me very well for my very poor play, which was impressive. So in this position, as Lawrence Trent mentioned in the commentary afterwards, I could go Bishop D4, for example. In fact, I did discuss the game with him in the commentary room. It's the only time I went into the commentary room. There was a little bit of an issue actually, because I sort of like, it's like a separate room, which is like the technical room, and then there's a commentary room. And a friend of mine is called Shanez Nazim. Her son Zane was playing in the tournament. She suggested to me that there's this radio team wanted me to do commentary. And I didn't quite understand what she was, or do an interview, but I didn't understand that she meant the commentary room. So I knocked on the door, and then they were like you know, they didn't answer, so I then went in, and they were like, "Oh, hang on a minute, you can't just come in like that." So then I realised it was a commentary room, right? Because I thought I was just going to do a radio interview with a local radio station or something like that. But this position is playable for black. So I did see Bishop D4, but I misassessed it. So I think after Bishop D4, I thought he would castle, and then I would start to run into issues. I mean, it's still not that great for black, but I think that... What was the other? Yeah, it says actually, yeah, so castles, I'm actually fine. So again, it comes down to assessing the position. It can't take here because it probably can't play against F2. Also, again, E6, trapping the bishop becomes a problem for white, potentially. It's actually playable for black. So it would have been very interesting if I'd have found that, how Ivanchuk would have gone about trying to regain the advantage. But I'll play this F5 move, which is kind of like Hari Kiri in a way, you know, like just very poor play. And now I clearly have a bad position. I don't have any solidity to my position. Played here. And but this next move, yeah, G4, and I had vaguely seen the idea, but I wasn't really expecting it. I thought he would just build up like this, and you know, black's position is quite bad, but G4 was much more to the point. It was like, you know, your position is underdeveloped, so I'm just going to attack you. So this where he did all this. What he did here was really impressive. So I thought here I'm kind of holding, but now he went H4, and this is, yeah, it's almost like he's quickening up, you know, like a great race course. And, you know, slow, it's almost like crab-like at the beginning. But now he's like quickened up. So, yeah, H4 is a brilliant move. So G4 combined with H4 is really brilliant. So the idea is to go H5 and undermine the knight. And now I realise I'm in really big trouble. And I think I've already made a big mistake. Actually, Yeah, it was actually at this point after G4 that I could still survive if I go here. And funny enough, again, that was a move that I'd seen. Um, so it was like I wasn't trusting my instincts. I'd actually seen Bishop E5. That was my original instinct. But then I was like, oh, well, what happens if he just takes? I'm just a pawn down. But sometimes you got to accept, you got to deal with it. I mean, I was reading this really good book by David Navarro just earlier. And he mentions all this kind of advice for, like, dealing with situations that arise in chess games. And he mentioned that, sometimes you just got to deal with a position that chess will hand you. You can't always sort of like over exceed yourself. So that's what I've been trying to do actually since this Sitges, try to play honestly rather than, try to make too much of my positions and try to be too, the 95 is just way too optimistic because clearly this whole defence is not going to hold with my complete lack of development. So obviously, I think when you use hindsight, you can see that this game was quite bad by me. But again, I think with all this brilliant stuff like G4 and H4, he made me look bad. And I think a lot of players would not have been that, aggressive or dynamic in prosecuting the advantage. So Bishop G5 again, excellent move. I think there was another way as well, right? I think H6 was also possible here because E5 is very weak. Yeah, I think I was actually expecting maybe here now, right? There was some weird lines like here, Rook E5, and when you go here, Knight G6, and now there's like a move that I saw during the game, and I was like, wow, if this happens, this is nice. I mean, okay, it's a bit of an exaggeration to say it's going to be in all the sort of like, tactical books because it's kind of a very standard idea, but the white to play. Again, think about the position. How can white exploit black's position? Well, there's a very nice move here, which is Rook E7, and I saw this variation in the game. So I was calculating reasonably well, but unfortunately just finding wins for my opponent. And the way he did it was also just as good. So he ends up just completely dominating the game, really outclassing me, I would say. He went H6. So he's just using dynamics. Again, another thing that Navarro mentions in the book is, the pace that you play at. I think these top players, they understand that very well. When to play quickly in the position. Like I said, he's sped up with all his G4, H4 stuff. He's using initiative very well to exploit my shoddy play. And I got the feeling that maybe players of a lower level wouldn't have done it quite as effectively. I could be wrong. So he went Bishop D8. And now he goes G5. This is really... The crux of the idea is that when you take here, you have Bishop F6, and you're hitting the rook, but you're also threatening a mating attack. Very nice idea. And I think he'd seen this. So he went into this big think before he played G4, and I'm pretty certain that he'd seen all this. These guys can calculate long lines. And so by this point, I'm just complete toast. Just flip the board just to show it from my perspective. And I realised I'm dead. I think I resigned here because if I take, he's got various ways to win, but I think he can in fact just queen the pawn actually is a nice way to win because when I take, this is checkmate. So a very nice game by Ivanchuk, I would say, even if the resistance was pretty lamentable. Disappointing game, not result, but disappointing game from my perspective. Player that I've always admired. Like I say, I don't really like this whole genius thing because you could also call Hanan a genius. Ivanchuk, I think, is often mentioned as a genius because he's a slightly eccentric person. And we often, probably quite rightly, we kind of associate eccentricity with genius. But you could also call Gary Kasparov a genius, Vishy Anand a genius, Vladimir Kramnik possibly a genius, Anatoly Karpov a genius, Alexei Shirov a genius, Veselin Topolov a genius, Michael Adams a genius, Alexander Morozevich a genius, and so on. So it's more the fact that you're playing against a very, very high class player. And that, to me, is what was impressive about the game and instructive. So actually, since that game, I've actually been unbeaten. So it clearly inspired me. I tend to play better after I play against, high class players. The same thing happened to me in Gibraltar in 2005, which in tournaments Ivanchuk was also playing. I think he tied for first. And I was a half a point off the win, actually. I was a half point off. I was either a half a point or a point off time for first. I think it was half a point off time for first, which is quite a remarkable result. But I played a really good tournament, and because I played so many good players, I played Aronian in that tournament, I played Nakamura. The only game I lost was against Schippke, which was like the best game that I've ever been involved with, probably. He played a phenomenal game. It was probably one of the best games ever played, I would say. And because of that, it elevated my level, because I was playing against good players. And also when you're playing against good players, you're more focused in a way, because you know if you make a mistake, they're going to punish you. So I find I tend to play better against good players, because I tend to find that I blunder less. Let's have a look at in the game I played. I was playing against a young French player. And Sue's quite a good player, and I think she's definitely got a lot of potential in the future. It's only 17. Seemed to have quite a good tournament. I think I've mentioned that game at the time as well on the YouTube channel. That I think Black had quite a good position from the opening. So I think she could have just castled here, and I think this is all a bit of a bluff by White. There's not really much that White can do. I mean, I did kind of realise actually during the game that 92 was maybe that sort of twigged a bell. That the way to play was to go knight d2, and you bring the knight to c4. You can, the bishop is a little bit annoying on e4 for Black, because Black wants to go to c5. So they're going to have to prepare c5 with possibly queen b6. But queen b6 will run into knight c4 with tempo, potentially. So maybe they go rook b8 and c5, or queen c7 and c5. But knight d2 is slightly awkward for Black. Some chances of White gain the advantage. But the move I played was not really a way to be better for White. So I think she could have just castled and called my bluff and just played this. And then c5's coming eventually. In fact, c5 is a threat. No, not immediately because of queen d7, but you're going to go rook d8 and then go c5. So you will probably get to play c5 eventually. Or also like knight f6 like you played, and then c5. But maybe a better version. So yeah, this is still some kind of theory. But so you went knight f6, which is also not bad. But I thought that gave me some kind of hope. Admittedly, this position is not great. My idea was if you go e4 now. Again, not tragic for Black. Black has still got a lot of trumps. So she could have potentially played this. But I think I've made some progress within the position. I've got ideas of going bishop g5. Maybe going e5 as well. Going for the... what's called the Greek gift sacrifice with bishop h7 if Black's not careful. So Black could play a move like h6 just to potentially prevent that, but e5 is slightly annoying. You don't really want to lose the bishop pair, because I will take out the queen now. So what she played does make a lot of sense actually. She just took on f3 because that forced me to take out the pawn. But although White's pawns are doubled, my king is actually quite safe. And she doesn't really have a way to combine the knight, the knight, the queen and the bishop to create an attack, but that is something that I will have to be wary of if the position opens up, kind of like what it did actually. So I think I was doing the right things around about this point. And I regretted actually, I know, bishop c4 was okay. But I regretted to going queen f3 because I kind of missed her next move. And I think I could have played some... Oh, bishop b3 was annoying. That was what I was thinking. Because if e5, then queen c4. So what I kind of underestimated was her next move. And I think there's another example shows that she's quite a good player. Because, you know, it was a little bit like the Ivanchuk game in a way. It's like instructive that they're doing something that a lot of players wouldn't do. So bishop b3... I think was giving white some edge. I mean, to be honest, I think the computer actually likes the move I play just as much. Like queen f3, because I was saying the bishop... Yeah, it really doesn't change the evaluation. It's just equal. Like, white has nothing here. But on the other hand, I don't have any problems either. You know, it's just a solid position. It's just a question of whether... I don't think black's really going to outplay white from here, because I think black can't really create anything very easily, but it's going to be difficult for white to create something if black just sits there, like just plays his move like g6. But you see, when e5, which it does have some downside because it makes his bishop a little bit stronger. But I thought it's kind of interesting that she just went e5 and then, you know, because obviously there's some optimism behind what she's doing. She's trying to go for the attack. So I'm just going to, I mean, basically, yeah, I think I was slightly surprised to see when rook fa, and I can't remember exactly what. I was thinking actually queen e7 was what I was expecting, and then put the bishop on e5. And I thought that white has nothing there, probably nothing in the game either, but you see, went here and then I went here, and this is where she made quite a big mistake, because I'm starting to create a little bit of pressure, and this is what I say about this slightly strange moves like rook f8, king h8, because you're weakening this square. She can't really go knight e4 because of rook d5, possibly. It's a little bit annoying. So she went queen e4. That was actually quite a big mistake. And I took, and now I was feeling quite good about myself. I went king g2. She went f. This is where I made a big mistake. And you know, the thing was, after the game, so I'm wandering around the hotel. I'm like going to the, so there's this bar called the Capablanca bar. So it's obviously a very chess orientated hotel. And I'm sat there in the bar. I probably ordered like a large soya cappuccino or something rubbish like that. I try not to drink that much just so I don't put on weight. You know, I'm already like overweight as it is. So I'm like thinking about this game. I'm like frustrated because I felt like the ending was quite promising for white, but I didn't exploit it. And then it occurred to me what I should have done in this position. So in this position, what should white play? So again, you might want to pause your video and think, you know, what should white play to gain advantage? So she's gone f6. So her plan is to bring the knight back to f7. She's basically telegraphed what she wants to do. It's very clear she wants to go knight f7. Right? Now, if she gets enough time, she goes knight f7, knight e5. She's clearly doing very well. Might even be better. The rook would have to leave the e pawn, and then I'll drop the e pawn. But I can always meet knight f7 with f4. But on the other hand, a little bit like, you know, what happened in the game, f4 kind of blunts the potential of the bishop on g3. So the move I should have played in this position, and I realised is when I think about the game blindfold, without even checking with an engine, that if I'd have been a bit calmer, I had plenty of time at this point. What I should have done was gone rook d7. So I you know, I'm not sure how much time I had actually at this point. I think it shows on the website if you go to the actual lead chess to where the tournament is. I mean, I've done this in the study, so I've imported into ChessBase, and then. But I had enough time, basically, to figure out that rook d7 was a good move. And I kind of started rushing it. You know, again, the ego started taking over. Right, I played this move instantly. I know it's the best move. So in the game I played h4, it's almost like I played my next few moves instantly. Like, they're definitely the best moves. But I could have just gone rook d7. And I realised after the game, she's in big trouble. Because if she takes here, I go h4, the knight's trapped. It's quite a simple idea. And I was really kicking myself. And clearly if you do something like this, I mean, something like this is actually pretty horrible for black. I think that he would not have defended this. He was in a bit of time trouble. It would have been very, very difficult to defend this because, like, bishop g3 is coming, f4. So I was kind of kicking myself. But see, you know, to be fair, he played after I started going wrong. So he played it really, really well. So he defended really well after I went wrong. So I went here, which is actually not too bad. There was another option. Yeah, rook d7 was the top move, right? I think there was also e4 was another option, right? Because here you can go f4. This is also very, very strong. So this is a very nice alternative, which I didn't really consider as well because I just went h4 very quickly, which h4 was still a lot better for white, but then I messed it up again later. So I went f4, which is the best move. So I went f5, and again, that move impressed me. I was like, oh, I understand, because it's clever tactics, because he understands here. What was wrong with that again? It's ages since I looked at these games, so I've actually forgotten. Yeah, but the problem is that this is hanging. So it's like, oh my god, that's kind of an annoying move, right? F5, I missed that move. And then I started like losing my perspective of the game and the objectivity. The objective evaluation is that white is still a lot better. So I could play h5, the engine's saying. No, king f3. Not h5 because not h6. Well, it's also not bad. That's actually what I played, right? So I could even just go here and then here. But then, of course, you're worried about the checks, but it doesn't really help. So you kind of improve like this. It's kind of not... It looks... I mean, the engine just says it's like borderline winning, or if not just winning, but... I mean, to a human perspective, it looks like it's actually kind of tricky, because a knight's on g4, that's kind of, you know, similar to the position we've got in the game. I mean, for example, the first question is, why can't you go here? Well, then you go here. So this is quite an annoying move. Yeah, this is another move that I kind of failed to appreciate later, because I'll just show you what happened. Yeah, that was quite a bad move, because now, again, she played a great move. She went very calm. Yeah, bishop a6 was tremendous. Yeah, quite an easy move to miss when you're kind of looking around, defending the e3 pawn, and I think I vaguely saw the idea, but I just didn't. I underestimated how strong it was. And if you go here, then rook c1 is very good. But this is quite a nice line, like takes e4. And but yeah, after this, there was one moment later on where I had a chance to... so actually the weird thing about this was that I actually intended to do something else here. I can't actually... Maybe it was rook d7. No, I did go rook d7, right? Maybe it was rook here now. Yeah, this is what I actually intended to do. Knight f6, bishop b2, and sack the exchange. Which actually is not very good anyway. Because I saw some line like this. And then rook g5. But actually a miscalculation, this doesn't work. What was I thinking of? Maybe I was thinking of something else. No, rook c7, sorry. This is what I was actually calculated, but it's actually not that great anyway, because already engine's starting to give an edge for black. So my idea was here, and then he didn't have a check with the rooks. And I saw that, I thought, oh, that's really cool, right? Because now I've got a threat of bishop g7 as well, taking a bishop. Maybe this is like a really cool line. But the weird thing was, once you went king g6, and I actually intended to go bishop b2, and that was my intention. But for some reason, my hand went rook d7, which has never happened to me before. So again, this might be like a senior moment, you know. Like, you start to make In fact, actually, when I say it never happened to me before, I think that's a lie because I think it actually happened to me in the same tournament earlier in the tournament. So I'm starting to like make moves. I'm starting to like, you intend to make a move and then your brain somehow, interferes with you and you do something else. Because I actually intended to go rook d7, but then I found my hand and played bishop b2, which is probably like just as good anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so this was like the last chance. That again, I lost my objectivity and I went bishop d4 and I just completely overlooked her next move. And again, it was a great offensive move, rook d8, which I completely missed. And then I realised it's just like the game's dead now. I'm not going to win this, or very unlikely that I'm going to win. And I was just hoping she would take. I'd only calculated this, which is pretty tremendous. But of course, he's going to try and avoid that because he understands as well this is not a good variation to take on d4. But I could have just taken, and again, this is something I realised after the game. So, yeah, this is like the Bobby Fischer ending where you've got the rook and the bishop against the rook and the knight. So I was a little bit disappointed because, I'm playing against 2200. I'm rating I should trying to win the game with white. But he defended well, And so when you see Magnus win these endings and he makes it look simple, this is what happens when you don't win, So it's not as simple as he makes it look, and I had chances in this game, but I just didn't take the chances. And the last game was I'll very quickly show you the last game because that was also, so this game was played at kind of very similar, right? And I played a guy in round 9, so it was quite a long tournament, 10 rounds, right? And I played a guy in round 9 who, we both played at 99% accuracy, but he was slightly better throughout with black. But I had like oceans of time left at the end. He was quite short of time. I played like phenomenally quickly, but I never really got any chances at all in that game. So then I'm paired against this guy who's like an older IM. He's like early 50s, like a little bit older than me. So sort of player that you would probably play if I start playing seniors in a few years.